on Single Reed Talk with Dr. Lori. We're going to talk about how to put the saxophone away. First thing you want to always do is make sure you take your reed off. So I'm going to rest the saxophone on my leg while I hold the mouthpiece, and I'm going to just go ahead and slip that right off. Okay? And make sure I wipe off the excess moisture, and I'm going to put that back into my reed case. So this is a little reed case that holds 4 reeds. You can put it in that. Sometimes you can maybe have a one that holds 2 reeds, or you can buy cases that hold 10 to 12 reeds. Now, if you don't happen to have one of those, you can always take the plastic case that your reed came in the box, and you can slide that very carefully in there, making sure the flat side is down on the bottom, on the flat side of this. You slide it in, and make sure you don't push it in too far, but far enough so that it doesn't come flopping out when you do that. So you want to make sure it's in firm enough, but not so far that you're going to damage the part of the reed right there. So I'm going to keep it there. So that's perfectly fine. You just need to make sure that the reed is protected when you're not using it, when you're not playing it. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off my ligature. Go ahead and take that off. I'm going to set that down for now. Now I'm going to really carefully, actually I think I'll take off the entire neck. We're going to go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do when you take the neck off is you unscrew the right screw. Now I'm going to grab it and I'm going to cup my hand over the octave key. And so when I have it cupped, I'm going to grab my fingers on the part that's solid, and I'm going to just gently twist and pull it. Okay? I'm not going to crank it back and forth, because you got to be careful of that rod sticking up. Very important to make sure that that rod doesn't get bent. Okay? So I'm going to lay my saxophone on my lap carefully, like that. And when I take my mouthpiece off, again, the same thing. I'm going to hold it in this area where the octave key is not. I'm going to hold on to it, and I'm going to just twist and pull, gently pull that off. Remember, we want to keep the corks greased so that you can take your mouthpiece on and off easily. I'm going to set this down just for a second, because I want to show you how I wipe out the mouthpiece. I don't run the swab through the mouthpiece, but what I do is I take my swab and I wipe out the inside of my saxophone mouthpiece, and I wipe off the top and make sure that I get all the moisture off of that. Then I take my ligature, put my ligature back on. You don't have to tighten it this time. Put it back on, and then you take your mouthpiece cap, put that back on too. So you're protecting your mouthpiece. Okay, very important. Make sure you put your mouthpiece cap back on, ligature goes on, mouthpiece cap back on, and then you put that in your case. Always remember to take your reed off your mouthpiece. Very, very important. Never leave your saxophone reed on your mouthpiece. Always take it off. Always clean your saxophone mouthpiece too. Okay? Alright. Now, let's go back to the neck. Okay? Alright, so the neck, what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to just take my swab, and I'm going to do the same thing basically. Just wipe out the neck with the swab as best as I can. If you get a lot of moisture in there, you can just kind of shake it out if you want to do like that. You could probably run the swab through it. I usually just wipe it out like this, but I'm just really careful, making sure that I'm not crushing this key right here. Okay? Now, when you put this back in, make sure you put it in the slot that it goes to. Don't stick it in your bell or anything like that. Make sure you just stick it back into the slot that it came out of. Okay, now, the bell of the saxophone. Okay, so what we're at bell, the barrel, everything, the bell, the body of the saxophone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop a swab. I have a very long, so let me show you the swab before I go ahead and put that in there. The swab is, it's a big swab, okay? It's made out of some kind of a nylon material. I like this one because it's really great for a saxophone, because it's bigger like that. It's got a lot of space for that. It has a weighted end on it, and I also like it because it's got a long weighted end on it. It's great for saxophone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down into the skinny end, okay, like that. Just drop it down like that, and then I'm going to do like that, and then you can see that the weighted end is coming out through the bottom. So I'm going to kind of just carefully pull that through, and that helps to get rid of some of the excess moisture that's in here on the saxophone. Okay, you can do that several times. You can also take the swab, just wipe out the top. I tighten that screw back up a little bit. If you have the little stopper that goes in there, go ahead and put the little stopper in and then tighten up that right hand screw. Okay, and if you see any kind of spots of water inside your bell, you can just wipe those out too. Then I just take my saxophone, I hold it by the bell, hold it by the bottom, and then I gently put that right back into my case, making sure that it goes exactly in the spot that it's supposed to go in. You have to be really careful when you lay them in there, because you don't want to rush and slam it all in there together. Okay, then you put your swab back in your case, and then the last thing is your neck strap. You take your neck strap off, loosen it up, okay, and then put your neck strap in the compartment, and then close your case, and then zip it up. Don't put any books inside your case. Don't lay them on top of your saxophone unless you have something like have an outside pocket where you can put books, things like that. If you don't have that, make sure you put those in your backpack, because we don't want to have books against the saxophone body. There's a lot of keys on this instrument. They're very expensive. You want to make sure that you put nothing on that. Okay? If you want to do anything, you can put a nice cleaning cloth or a nice cloth, and you can lay that on top of it just to kind of protect those keys. That looks really nice too, to do that. But don't put books in your case, anything, unless you have a place for the books to go. Okay, so that's it. It's pretty easy to put the saxophone away. Main thing to remember, make sure you take your reed off, put your reed in a safe place, wipe it off. Make sure you always take your mouthpiece off and wipe your mouthpiece off. Never leave the reed on the mouthpiece. Be very careful with your neck when you're taking it on and off. Put that back in your case, and then carefully put your saxophone back in. Okay? That's all you have to do with the saxophone, putting it away. It's pretty easy. So I'll see you next time.